Welcome to PR Masters. I am your greeter. I am long experienced in the greeting role. My name is Eric Winger, and I want to welcome you all to PR Masters this evening. I have been informed that we are about to have a great meeting. I am informed that we are going to have a fabulous, informative meeting tonight, and I have not been informed on who I'm going to hand this off to after I'm done speaking. So I'm hoping somebody, there's a clue, somebody named Fred will give me that clue, and he just did. Fred is going to take things over, probably as our Toastmaster. With that, I'm going to give Fred the floor. Take it away, Fred.
Thank you. And I apologize, I'm unable to upload the agenda from Easy Speak, but I'll promise I'll go along as best as I can. Okay, so I am your Toastmaster today, and like Eric said, you're in for a very fun meeting. We have two speakers. We have Jennifer Schmidt and we have Maren Ziba. Our Table Topics Master is Bob Hall. But in order for our meeting to run smoothly, we got to have a timer. So Jill, tell us your role as timer, and then we will proceed with the meeting.
Thank you, Fred. I will be timing this evening. I do have virtual backgrounds up and ready. We will take a quick gander at them. Green, yellow, and red. I have confirmed that speaker 1 will be 5 to 7 minutes and speaker 2 will be 8 to 10 minutes. And then our table topic session will be 12 to 15 minutes total. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Fred.
Thank you. And before I call on our first speaker, can the speakers see Jill and the timing backgrounds? Okay, I see thumbs up. Okay, good.
I'll raise my hand if I can find that so it pins me up to the top. Just
it's under reactions, Jill.
Under reactions. Okay.
There we go. Raise your hand and it should put you in the very top left corner.
Okay.
And we will now move on to our first speaker, which is Jennifer Schmidt. Her speech is entitled, "It's All About You," and it's connecting with your audience begins before they arrive. Please welcome Jennifer Schmidt as she explains why in her speech is called "It's All About You." Take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Raise your hand if you've ever seen the sad puppy commercial where they look hungry and sad, and it's really a heartbreaking type of a commercial. Okay. It's heartbreaking in that commercial where it's so emotional for me. I want to put my hand through the screen, bring a big bowl of dog food and water and blankets and just help the little sad puppy dogs. And I heard them describe why they go in this direction because it's hard to watch. And they said it's because it's effective, more so than doing the positive version where you're showing all the vets and the food and the donations, because when people see that, they think, oh, they don't need my help. It's perfectly fine. They have what they need. Every puppy is happy and fed. So that is why they go the sad way. And Toastmasters is a lot like that. In order to effectively connect with members, and guests, we have to promote why it's important that they attend our meetings. When I was Vice President of Public Relations for New Horizons, this started with the initial message, an email that I would send out to everybody. And I had 3 objectives. One was to describe the theme, make it sound interesting, pull out the parts like the Toastmaster and the Table Topics Master, and then give a hint of what would be discussed. The second thing was fun, fun, fun. I emphasize fun. We meet at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. It has got to be fun in order for people to attend and wake up and go. It's got to be worth it. And the last thing that was the most important was, even though it was going to a lot of people, I always put in you. It's all about you. So when somebody received the message, they would know that it was important that they came to the meeting. I made it personal, just like the puppy dog commercial. And then during the meeting, when the audience is sitting there, that has to be delivered upon. It has to be informative, it has to be fun, and it has to be personal. It has to be worth the time for them to come to the meeting. What I remembered from sending out the message, most importantly, was the fact that there's lots of choices of what they could be doing on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. They could be sleeping, they could be spending time with their family, but they choose to come to that meeting. Anytime someone chooses the meeting and to listen to you, they are giving you a gift of their time, because I don't have a time machine to give them back that time. They are donating it. It's like a fistful of diamonds they're just giving you. So I never take for granted that fact that they are making a conscious choice to be there. Because realistically with Zoom, there are thousands of clubs that they could be attending in the middle of the night. If you wanted to go to a Toastmasters meeting in Australia in the middle of the night, you could probably find one. You could find a Toastmasters meeting probably every hour of the day if you really wanted to go. So it has to be worth it. And it has to be not taken for granted that you really want them there. When you're connecting with your audience, all of that has to be communicated during the meeting, that you appreciate that they are there, that they are members, that they are contributing, and that they are spending their precious time with you. And when you're connecting to that level, they don't feel like they're donating their time anymore. They feel like it flies by and they've enjoyed themselves. What I would emphasize for everyone here, for any club you attend, for anything that you are gaining from your attendance and from what you are giving your audience, tell them thank you for their time. Tell them that you appreciate their effort of attending and that they're welcome. Thank them afterwards. I got a thank you from Maria when she gave a speech here, and I never forgot it. It made me feel special. If people feel special and appreciated and not taken for granted, they will return. At one point, New Horizons was down to 3 members a long time ago. They had 3 members. Could have gone where the club went defunct, or it could have went where they thrived. And they ended up thriving. They built up from 3 members. So it is possible if you really take the time to appreciate and connect with the people that are attending, and they're valued when they're there. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Eric, I noticed I didn't have a second evaluator for Maren. Would you like to be her evaluator?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. And we
Is
have
there
some time. Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, I was just gonna say, is there anything in particular I should be looking for? Or do you want to fire me something in the chat?
Maren's going to do that for you while she's doing that. Jill, if you could put 2 minutes on the clock, we have some time to kill. For people that want to give Jennifer some verbal feedback, we'll use that in place of the Mentimeter. So who wants to give Jennifer her first feed before we move on to her actual evaluator at the end of the meeting? Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Eric.
Jennifer, your frozen face looks great. I like the live one better. I got to say, I do have a question. You opened with the sad puppy dog story because you wanted to tell us about how the audience reaches in and wants to hold the puppy. Does that mean as Toastmasters, we need to look like wet puppy dogs so people will come and save us? If not, then here are my 3 suggestions. You did very well. You do need to thank your audience. You gave the product opening example, but I would have loved to hear the name of the product so I could have an instant recall if I know the product or not. Like the old Mean Gene Coke commercials from the 70s. If I mention those, a few people in the audience may clink, oh yeah, I know that one. The quick recognition of the product name will help us there. Eyes on the camera. I think your eyes were on the camera, but they looked slightly off. And I'm not sure if that's just the nature of your particular video or not, but just something to think about and maybe and connect with a little bit better. And then the final thing, recommendation, call back to that story at the end. Call back to the puppies. Make a smile again at the end. And then that'll gift wrap. That's the gift that you just gave us. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Juanita, would you like to give any feedback?
Sure. I was brought into the story. I wasn't familiar with the sad puppy commercial, so I didn't necessarily relate to that, but I related very well to all the other things that you are telling us that we need to do, that in fact, it is a gift that people are giving us when they give us their time. So I really appreciated the reminders of all those things for us to do. And I felt like your delivery was well organized and it was easy for me to follow. And I took plenty of notes.
And Bob, would you like to finish it off with some feedback?
Sure. I'll just compliment you. You had some very memorable phrases. A fistful of diamonds sticks in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the reminder, Jill. We will now move on to our second speaker. Her evaluator is going to be Eric Winger. And your second speaker today is Maren Ziba. She's speaking from the Visionary Communication Project number 2, Evaluation and Feedback, present a speech on any topic, where she says, are you overwhelmed by posting on social media? Are you wondering what to do and why to do it? Our second speaker today, Maren Ziba, is going to review some fantastic posts from fellow Toastmasters with a focus on answering what's so great about this post, how much time does this take, what she thinks is the purpose of the post. Then she will ask the audience to challenge ourselves this month. Will you take her up on it? And by the way, her speech is 8 to 10 minutes long, and it's entitled, Let's Make This Easy. So let's give a warm welcome for your second speaker, Maren Ziba.
Thank you, Fred. I'm just organizing here for a moment. Very complicated when you have to get it back onto one tiny screen for you all. But I wanted to be able to see you today and have a conversation, because posting is often our topic in PR Masters. And it's often that thing that's overwhelming everything. What are we missing? What if I miss a part? How long is it going to take me to do this? And if you know anything about me, I'm always going, how can I make this easier? How can we get the message across, appreciate our audience, appreciate the work that they do, but yet be cognizant that we're volunteers and that we have busy, busy lives. So I routinely look at posts, especially since being a president of a club, assisting as in the VPPR role. And I'm a big appreciator of what I see that goes by. And sometimes we don't see each other. And one of the benefits of PR Masters is really seeing each other's work and celebrating it. Juanita is actually bookending my presentation today. And this is a post from Juanita. What did Juanita do really well in this post? She took a screenshot of her club, and they're clearly having fun. And it meets the requirement of showing people in our posts, and that is something that Toastmasters wants. And it shows your club environment, it shows who you're going to meet, and everyone looks friendly, and they're having a good time with these hats. Juanita also told a story about her club, which is key, and it was a really short little vignette. Answering Table Topics question about a favorite costume, Mai got our attention when she declared her favorite was also the worst costume she had had to wear. And it goes on. Great little capture of that meeting, and a thank you for sharing. Wow, Jennifer and I did not plan this. She also added a little emoji to highlight, please consider joining us, as well as the Zoom link and meeting information. I also like that she included both the link and the number, because people connect virtually in different ways. Our brains think differently from each other. So providing both makes it easier to account for different people's styles. Another winning factor of this post, she included hashtags. And that's an area where people are like, what are these hashtags? What do they do for me? Well, in any kind of public group, they act as a public search engine, and they can help more people find your club. If I were to give Juanita one small suggestion, I would suggest that she also include the simple hashtag of Toastmasters and Toastmasters leadership, because those have some high search results. But other than that, this looks like a fun club to really go join and see what they're like. Additionally, this is on, Juanita, is this on your personal feed? Feel free to unmute. Might be away from her mute button. I can ask her later. So the purpose of Juanita's post is to, okay, it's on your personal feed. So Juanita's like sharing at her club to her, go ahead.
I found that our club didn't get very many hits, so I do try to hashtag them so it goes to them. But I find that because I have a lot more friends, I get wider exposure that way.
Actually, that's really great feedback, Juanita. And that's one strategy. And another one you could do, it depends on whether or not your club has a open page, public page, or a public group. You could share from your public page or public group into your personal feed, and then you'd have a balancing act between the two options. But that's just something to consider. So Juanita, that was like a thank you follow-up post to a meeting, intriguing club meeting. But what's another post that it's like, why do people post things like this Halloween is on its way post that I did? That's a whole nother category of post. It's a I'm trying to change a behavior post. I'm trying to get my club to do an action, and I'm trying to build excitement for Halloween. So if you're struggling to get people to sign up for roles, this is one way to say, hey, we're going to have something fun coming on. You might want to join in and have a little joke with it. Like, we had free speaking slots available. Or you could change up how you do the timer role in this event. But once again, let's talk about time management. Juanita's was a screenshot that takes a moment in a meeting, and I used a silly GIF, and that's okay. Partially because I am also with Jennifer in the Saturday morning meeting where fun is a focus. I suspect that fun should be a focus in a lot of meetings. Professionalism does not negate fun. It's how do you make sure you walk your line of humor easily. A GIF is really fast to find. It grabs the attention because on the feed it's moving and is an opportunity to interact with each other. Additionally, I tagged as many of our club members as possible, so they got pinged that this post existed in hopes of interacting with them and exciting them for the meeting even if they didn't end up grabbing a role. Building that excitement, building touch points before a meeting, building engagement. I think it's too small on the screen, but at least 22 people saw this post, and we do have a public group. So you never know who might be coming into our group. And then as a secondary example, similar to Juanita's earlier post, this is our club meeting. And we went out of our way to use a silly gesture because we had done taboos for that meeting. And our president, Penny, did a great job of calling out the efforts of Ralph, Joe, and Barbie in this post. Once again, those people got tagged and got special recognition for what had happened in the meeting. But what's missing here? We don't have the hashtags. Oops, you know, sometimes we miss those things, and you can do it again at a different time. And we don't have a follow-up link. But Penny dropped that in the chat later. So even when you forget something, you can edit the post, you can drop it in the chat later. There's other ways to have the link and not worry too much about having the perfect post all the time, because that's one barrier sometimes to the entry of people just starting out in social media work. We're not going to be perfect all the time. We're going to make errors, and it's okay to laugh a little bit about it. I made a spelling error of literacy at work publicly yesterday. I fixed it. I saw it, but literacy of all things. Over on LinkedIn, Eric posted this just the other day, 21 hours ago. And I want to talk about easy things you can do. Eric comes from Silicon Forest Toastmasters, lunchtime club, people coming in from work, quick, fast-paced, pretty professional environment. And this post just represents the effort that Eric has put in since 2009, but he's still excited about his club. Really short sentence. I've been a Toastmaster since 2009 and stay with it because it's fun and keeps my soft skills sharp. Here are a few good reasons to check it out. He included 2 hashtags, public speaking and Toastmasters. Simple, easy, and he found a link to an article on Toastmasters. 3 steps to get this post out. One recommendation for Eric, I'm wondering, it could go either way, Eric. So you could add, ask me a question if you want to join sometime. Here's a link to my club. Something to get to that next step for people, to invite them to talk to you about it. But on the flip side, it's a great post by itself. It's just some little considerations. And as I sit here thinking about this, I realized that I grabbed the link to this post. So one of the things that we can do for each other is we can react to each other's posts, because that helps our posts be seen by more people. So if you're on LinkedIn and you have an interest in surprising Eric with some likes, because I didn't know whether or not he'd be at this meeting, you can click the link in the chat and give him a reaction. That reaction will exponentially increase the number of people who see his post. Additionally, if you react beyond the thumbs up, that can also help the algorithm. Little things that we can do to support each other. Now we have Jill's post also on LinkedIn. And Jill, I have to give you credit. This project took a lot more time. We happen to be featuring Jill, but she's done this for other members in our club. It takes a little more time to build this image, the photograph with all this information on it, and then to also add the post. Since joining Toastmasters and the Corvallis Evening Group, Jill has experienced growth in the effectiveness of her public speaking, presentations, and overall communications. It goes on from there. Jill, you're telling the story of why you're in Toastmasters, you're giving people an idea of who comes to your club, and you did a really professional post around the Toastmasters branding. Really big kudos to you. I have a couple suggestions, and I want everyone to know that I asked Jill ahead of time whether or not I could review her post. And one thing I would suggest is that you tag Corvallis Evening Group. It's silly, but it does help because you never know if someone's going to hit the tag in your text. And it will also highlight it in blue, and it will capture the eye like, oh, Corvallis Evening Group, I might go to that. Additionally, you might even tag yourself because you're presenting yourself publicly. That'll be a choice, but it's another way of showing your work to the world. And my last suggestion to you is that you have a lot of content here. And it's not a bad thing, but I'm thinking, oh, you're VPPR for a year. Why not have part 1 and then part 2? Because then you can share all this information, but knowing that people read so little, you can parse everyone's membership story into little sound bites and just keep the story going. And then maybe people will want to follow you. That's my suggestions for you tonight. I do see that red, Jill. I'm going to go over for a moment. Copy. If you would like to support Jill tonight and the Corvallis Evening Group, there is the link to this post. I have reached red. I did not know how far I'd get in these posts. I'm going to go relatively quickly just to be a little appreciative. Actually, I'm really glad I'm at Juanita. I almost made it perfectly on time, Juanita. The reason I'm featuring this post of Juanita's is where do we take this outside of Toastmasters? How do we take our PR to the next level? Juanita is a zoo volunteer. She does a series of zoo volunteer posts. So this is a way for us as Toastmasters to, yes, we support our Toastmasters clubs, but we have other missions too. We can use these same strategies to support things that we care about, from Bob's Walking Club to Eric's educational, so I think it's a children's speaking group. You never know who might need your communication and want to join you. So I encourage you to keep posting and keep finding easier ways to communicate out to the world so that you're not overwhelmed and you don't stop communicating. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Maren. Jill, if you could please put 2 minutes on the clock, and we're going to go and give you a round robin again. We're going to start with Marcy, then Jennifer, and we're going to wrap it up with Matthew on your round robin feedback from Maren. So take it away, Marcy.
Thank you, Maren. I love the fact that you researched, and as with every good speech, you found ways to connect with the audience by making it personal about them and pulling them into the conversation. You provided us, what I noticed is you provided us with some great tips on how we could make it easier on all of us, providing a variety of samples for doing that. Your choices differed and gave us a lot of variety in being able to move forward with that. You also went the extra effort and provided us with links so that we step up and follow the example in there. One of the things that I like that you brought forward in some of the suggestions that you provided, one of my takeaways, I've got a few notes, is putting in the call to action. Quite often we post all the information, but we forget to provide that call to action. Well done. Thanks. Once again, happy to hear what you have to share.
Thank you. Now, Jennifer.
Maren, I loved your PowerPoint and your examples of showing people that are actually in the group. That was really neat how you did that, or how it turned out. What I especially like is that you give tips that are specific. You are showing how to shorten. Doing a serial is a great idea because it keeps the engagement going. It's like little kind of like they used to do in Saturday morning, serials where they would have a situation and then it would continue to the next time. And also the fact that you added hints like adding a hashtag. I forget to do that myself sometimes, but I love how you were very detailed, and then to even prompt the audience to like it right then and there. That was brilliant. So great job, Mark.
Thank you. Well, we're at the 2-minute mark, so I apologize, Matthew. But Matthew, you can talk about club business as our club president. So take it away, Matthew.
I don't think we actually have too much in the way of club business to take care of. Unless somebody else knows of something.
If you don't, then you're welcome to give Maren some feedback.
Maren, do you have club business?
Well, along the lines of supporting the PR of the district, I am dropping Phyllis's Voices article in, and you'll see it on Facebook as well. But if you can like it, of course, that's great. Even better is reading it. And I would like to say that Jennifer Schmidt once again has an article in it, and it includes a very special poem. So I really encourage you to read her article on writer's block.
Thank you, Maren and Matthew. We will now move on to my favorite part of the meeting, and that is table topics. And running our table topic session tonight is Bob Hall, who, from my understanding, has a lot of table topics to cover. So the virtual floor is yours, Bob Hall. Take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Fred. And 2 great speeches. You kind of stole my thunder, guys. I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to try my best to come up with some questions that you didn't cover in your speeches. You covered the whole gamut. So, in Maren's speech, Juanita, you were featured prominently in Maren's speech as an expert in this subject. So I'm going to ask you a simple question. What does the phrase "know your audience" mean to you, and why is it important?
Well, first of all, I didn't know I was going to be featured that much. She did ask my permission, but I didn't remember that it was at this meeting. So it was actually kind of a fun surprise to know that I had actually done something that was noteworthy. Knowing your audience is really important, because if you just speak to the masses and don't hone it down to who it is you're really trying to target, it's just scattered. It really doesn't get their attention. Just like as Jennifer was talking about the puppies, if you're not an animal lover, the puppies might not speak to you. But man, if you are a dog owner, you do want to just reach right through, and it just pulls at your heartstrings. So those people knew their audience. And anytime that you have something that you're passionate about, then it's easy for you to draw in your audience. And you don't necessarily want to have everybody, because not everybody relates to you. You want to try and find those people that are your people, that you can speak to and that you can encourage and that you can guide and support. We had a wonderful speaker this afternoon that is very passionate about reaching out to internationals that are learning English as a new language, and having Toastmasters as a welcoming place that they can come and not only learn speaking skills, but practice their English. And so we are having a meeting on the 17th at noon, and would love to have any of you that are available during lunchtime, noon to 1. I can send you the link, or you can just go on my site and grab that hashtag and get to our meeting or the information. But we are reaching out to people that just want to come to our meeting and learn more about Toastmasters, or those that are really working hard at learning a new language and learning how to be able to speak comfortably, just one-on-one with people or small groups, and feel more comfortable with that. Not necessarily getting up in front of a big crowd, but just being more comfortable in speaking to other people.
Thank you, Juanita. Great that you punctuated it with a call to action. That was fantastic. Now, another person who was featured prominently today is Eric. several call outs for your spectacular abilities. So I'm gonna let's flip the script a little bit here. Let's say that you're in the audience, okay? What is it about a speaker that would prompt you to give a standing ovation to that speaker? What features would you look for in a speaker to give them a standing ovation? Eric.
Thank you, Bob. That's an excellent question. First of all, I'd like to thank Maren for featuring me today, and I also appreciate her asking me in advance if she could use my post. Oh, wait, she didn't ask me, but I don't mind anyway. It's a good plug for Silicon Forest. What's a standing ovation? Okay, standing ovations in my mind often are a form of peer pressure. If you're sitting in an audience and the audience stands up around you and you're sitting amongst the trees, you're going to stand up. I went to my first concert in probably 20 years a month ago, and people kept standing up all around me, and I didn't want to, but I did anyway because they did. So there is that element of the peer pressure, in the standing. But if I was in an audience and I think there's got to be a bit of an emotional tug for me to want to jump up and cheer. I'm not naturally a cheerleader, but if you can reach in and grab my heart in some way, I will respond with the standing ovation if I've been moved. It's really we're moved by emotion, and that is probably the number one thing. The number two thing I would think is if I stayed with you the entire time. It is so easy for speakers to lose us. It's that we're in the distraction age. The 21st century is the distraction age, and attention is the golden chalice. So if you can hold my attention for the entire time, and it's interesting and fascinating, and you pull on my heartstrings or pull on my emotions as well, you're going to probably get the standing ovation. That's a really great question, Bob. I hadn't really thought about that before. So thank you for the challenge. Back to you, sir.
Thank you. Great. All right. Well, let's flip the script again this time. You're the speaker. Have you ever nailed it? Have you ever given a speech and people loved it? You got great evaluation. Can you put your finger on what you did that was different that time? It might have been it might not have been a speech. It might have been a table topic or something that 2 minutes, whatever. But you did it, and it was wow. Can you put your finger on what you did and share that with us? Who have I got? Who's next? Jill.
Thank you, Bob. A time when I felt like I nailed my speech. Could have been prepared or impromptu.
Mm-hmm.
I lack self-confidence in my speaking in general, so I have a hard time identifying when I have nailed it or when I haven't. If I've over-prepared and I feel confident, I'll sometimes feel like I've completely nailed it and feel good about things. The times where it's been more impromptu, when I felt like I have done well and nailed my speech, I would relate back to it being personal, telling something about myself that the audience is able to relate to, thinking about a few different table topics that I'd done within my home club that I had nailed it and received positive feedback on. And those were times when I was sharing personal stories, things that were really personal to me, public, but personal to me. And I think the audience was able to relate when you're sharing personal things. So it's a little bit challenging for me to always identify when I've nailed it or when I haven't. But to me, the times where I feel most successful, that I feel the audience was engaged, that they were paying attention, listening, if it was virtual or if it was in person, was those times where I'm sharing parts of myself, sharing my story, not just up lecturing on a subject or talking about a specific subject. It's relating and bringing my story to the topic. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you very much. That's very insightful. This is awesome. We're getting all different sides of this question here, and this is a great group. That's why I love this group, is because everybody's got a different take on it. All right, let's flip the script again. Okay, now put on your critic's hat this time. Thinking about public figures, people who are safe to attack, not your fellow Toastmasters. In what areas do you think that most or more speakers could improve, Matthew?
That's a big question. In what areas could most speakers improve?
What bugs you the most when you hear somebody speaking? There's a pattern there. What is that? Can you put your finger on it?
Oh, this is hard to fit into a table topic. I would say I have 3 of them. One is people who mangle or misuse grammar, or using the wrong tenses, or saying good when they mean well. So that's the first one. The second one is people who are not respectful. I think when you're in the public and when you're sharing ideas, even if you disagree with somebody, it's important to have a tenor of respect and care for the people around you and how your words make them feel. And the final and maybe most appropriate one is thinking about your audience. A lot of people, I think, in the public eye, think about the comments that they're giving maybe necessarily to the group that they're talking to, right? And you see this with politicians who are maybe talking to a small group of donors, or to somebody who's giving an interview and they're talking to the person across from them. But they don't think about the wider audience of people who are going to hear the comments. The politicians' words get out to the larger public, and they're not necessarily as contextual, or not necessarily as appropriate as they would be to a wider audience. Which is not to say that we have to be completely politically correct, but I do think it's important as speakers to give consideration to how your words are going to be perceived by a larger audience, or by people who maybe even aren't present. I know that that's something that I give great attention to when I'm composing an email, for example, at work, or when I'm sending a text message to somebody, or even when I'm in a meeting like this, trying to think about, if somebody were to hear about what I said later, would it be kind? Would it be helpful? Would it be appropriate? And anyway, so I would say those are my top 3.
Thank you, Matthew. That was a hard question. You're right, and that's why I gave it to you. So I knew that you would nail it.
Thank you.
Great response. All right, let's flip the script again. Good speakers crave feedback, especially if you're good. You want feedback, especially on your weaknesses. You want to know how it's coming across. What areas do you think that you can improve as a speaker? Have you got any secret weaknesses that you wish that your evaluators would take more effort to point out to you? Marcy.
What would I like from my evaluators? Absolute honesty, because 50% of the benefit of a speech is getting feedback. And everyone perceives our speeches differently. Our active listening is different. What you may hear, Bob, could be totally different than what Eric would pick up and provide me as feedback. What I want to know is what you see that would make a difference, that would help me notch it up and make me a better speaker in what I have to share. Perhaps help me dig deeper into a topic and not be superficial. Perhaps be more eloquent in how I present my information. Perhaps find a way to be more relatable or tough whenever I needed to be. But I need to have honesty from people. Don't gloss it over and make it nice, because too often I find when we get evaluators, they often go, oh, I just can't think of anything you could do to improve. And I know I can do lots to improve. Back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Toastmaster, do we have time for one more question? Okay, great. So of all the senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, which ones should a speaker focus on? All of them to one degree or another, or does it depend on the audience? Have you ever participated as an audience member or as a speaker and employed smell, taste, and touch to enhance a presentation, and to what effect? Fred.
Why did I know you were going to call on me? Actually, I have, and I don't know if I've implemented all of them together in one speech, but I have combined several, and I have the red light, so I'll make it real brief. But if you watch I have a YouTube video that I did a speech on when I was homeless, and basically I got a lot of feel of the audience. So I got a little bit more comfortable, and I was doing a lot of touching by like walking the floor and seeing examples like the expressions of people's faces and using the slides behind me. So I'm going to stop it there because I have a red light.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Fred. Good answer. So great answers to these questions today. This is phenomenal. I mean, this is worth the price of admission, guys. This is so. I guess I'm done here, right, Fred?
Yes, sir.
Back to you.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Okay, over to you.
Thank you. And now we're going to move on to our general evaluation portion of the meeting. Your general evaluator tonight is Marcy Field, is going to call on our evaluators, get our timers report from Jill, and then give us our overall general evaluation of the meeting. So the virtual floor is yours, Marcy Field.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. If I could call on Jill, our timer, if you could provide me the times for all of our speeches, starting with our 2 prepared speeches.
Yes. Starting at the beginning with Jennifer's speech, it was 5 to 7 minutes was her time, and she came in at 6 minutes and 27 seconds. Maren's speech, she was going for 8 to 10 minutes. Maren was at 13:01 for her speech. In table topics, I'm going to admit I failed to remember to time individual people. So I have my own time because Maren sent it to me at 1:12. I have Marcy at 1:34 and Fred right there at the end at 45 seconds. The overall time for table topics was 12 to 15 minutes and we were at 16:05.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And the importance of our timing when we're working on our speeches is that we respect our audience. We want to be there. It's an important thing when we commit to spend X amount of time. It actually turned me off to a keynote speaker, Tony Robbins. I went in. He's notorious for going over. He went over by over half an hour in his time slot. and it totally turned me off. So going back to what would give the standing ovation, being on time is important to me. And I appreciate the role of the timer as we go forward. I'd now like to call on our evaluators. Matthew, if the floor is yours, the podium, the virtual podium.
Thank you very much, Marcy, and thank you, Jennifer, for the speech. I'm super excited to give you feedback on this speech because I loved it, and I love giving feedback on speeches I loved. Fun and personal indeed. Huge shout out to Maren for her speech, was also fun and personal. I mean, talk about personal. That was a speech that had people in the meeting featured in it. That's about as personal as you can get. So lesson learned. Jennifer, in terms of the things that I saw, heard, and the general structure of your speech, that's sort of the first half, and the second half is I'm talking about some superpower stuff. So in terms of what I saw, Bob liked the phrase "a fistful of diamonds." I loved watching the phrase "a fistful of diamonds" because you got out here with your fists, and I thought it was super effective. I do think that you have an opportunity when you're talking about the cats or the dogs and that sort of thing, that you have a chance to play with the camera a little bit. If you wanted to come in for some little puppy eyes, that could be kind of fun. In terms of what I heard, I thought you had great timbre to your speech. You talked about it being hard to watch sad puppies because it's effective. You talked about when people see that, they say, oh, they don't need my help. We could hear that you were affecting a voice of somebody else having a thought. And the third element is structure. I think it was Eric who mentioned this, but the dog story was effective and you had time. So you could have potentially bookended the speech and come back to the puppies because it was a good concept. The final piece that I wanted to touch is your superpower. So something that you did that was really effective was you use pitch really well. It makes it really simple and easy to hear you and to get key ideas. So a phrase that you used was, tell them that you have an incoming phone call. Tell them that you appreciate your contribution. And when we said the word appreciate, I have this visual of a balloon coming up. Your pitch came up, that you appreciate their contribution. And I would love for you to come off mute and give us that phrase. Tell them that you appreciate their contribution.
Are you asking me to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay. You appreciate their contribution.
So something to consider adding to your repertoire, sort of like adding a right hook or an uppercut if you're a boxer, is instead of that visualization of a balloon coming up, try bringing your pitch down. Think about it as like smooth, warm chocolate or something like that. So if the word that I'm talking about is appreciate. So if you were to say, tell them you appreciate their contribution, but try it with appreciate in smooth, warm chocolate. Can we hear you?
I didn't know this was a back and forth here.
Oh yeah, no, this is the interactive portion of the speech.
You appreciate their contribution.
Yeah. Anyway, it just gives it a different gravity. And for most of your speech, whenever you have something that is particularly of interest, you do come up. So it would really grab our attention and blow our minds if you came down. Food for thought. Love the speech. Fun and personal indeed. Wonderful.
Well, Mr. Evaluator, I must tell you that is smooth and sweet like chocolate. I'd now like to ask Eric to provide his evaluation of Maren's speech.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I just want to point out that Marcy will not be giving Matthew a standing ovation because he went well over time. So just something to think about there. Maren asked me on the chat, she said to evaluate, is this presentation helpful? Is this presentation engaging? And what should I keep? So those are the three questions I'm going to focus on. Is this helpful? Of course it's helpful. This is what we do. We post in social media if you're going to reach out to people in the world. So absolutely directly relevant to the audience, absolutely helpful. And not only did you just give us a general topic that was helpful, Maren, you gave us something specific within that general topic that's helpful. How many times have we gotten feedback on how to post something on social media? Me, not so much. So definitely helpful. I'm going to focus on engaging probably more than on what to keep. Engagement was good. I think there's some things that we can improve upon. Number one, does anybody remember in radio days, there's something called radio silence? Anybody heard of something called that? Basically, if the radio went silent, the audience went away. And so if you were a DJ, you never had radio silence. And yet today, in today's world, we have something called tech silence. And that's the portion of our speech where we start by setting up our tech, whether it's slides or visuals or anything techie. And then we have this 15 to 30 second pause at the beginning. And that is an engagement draw away. It takes away from the engagement. Our minds wander. We all have 2-second attention spans. So get us right away, have the slide ready to go, bam, and you're off. Also, I would recommend for better engagement as you're describing these posts, because it's a visual thing, get your cursor up there. Point me to the emoji, point me to the piece that you're showing me, point me to a hashtag, because my eye can't focus on all those details at once. Other thing is, I don't know if this is the case for everybody, but my screen was blurry on your visuals. And I don't know if that's because you did screen grabs and blew it up, but sharper focus, crisper stuff would have been more helpful for me to stay engaged because I struggled to read just a little bit. Keep, finally. Lots to keep in here. The biggest keeper, I think, though, Maren, is the purpose. Posts with purpose is something that I just never really thought about before. Yeah, I want to draw people in, but specifically, how do I want to draw people in? And you said that in one or two of your posts, what are the people in reaching out to engage in? Can you set up your structure on this to say, here is the post, here is the purpose, now what can we improve on it? And use that for everyone, and that structure will be a beautiful keep. It would just keep me going so well. The colors are flashing so fast. I swear I'm not talking slow here. So definitely keep that structure and the purpose above all. Keep the personality in it. Keep us engaged and relevant with, by mentioning us. And again, it was helpful. Some room for improvement on engagement, and definitely some keepers in there as well. So overall, keep it. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. I agree. It's a keeper. Perhaps something we can include for TLI. If I could ask Jill, could I have the timing on our evaluators, please?
Yes, you may. Evaluations, as I understand them, are 2 to 3 minutes. Can I get a yes? That's correct. Okay. Matthew's evaluation of Jennifer was 4 minutes and 9 seconds. I see that he was interactive there, so maybe give him a little leeway. Eric's evaluation of Maren's speech was 3 minutes and 32 seconds. 3 minutes 32. Just a little over.
I beat Matthew though.
You did. Well done. Back to you,
We
Marcy.
both got DQ'd.
But moving forward, as DTMs, we are reminded that it is don't time me. No longer matters the relevance of it. Thank you very much. Now to my portion, which is talking about our meeting as a whole and looking at things from the beginning. I appreciate this because as a group of individuals, we're coming together and becoming friends and starting to know each other. We're discovered this is a safe place for us to be in sharing and learning and growing. We also know that it's very important for us to have fun as we go forward. This is my tech silence, collecting my thoughts together when I think of all the various components. What did we do well? We had fun. We talked about things that were relevant to engaging with our audience. We provided tips on how we could do it better, how we could make it easier. We provided a great array of questions, turning it around a bit that everybody could perhaps look at it through a different lens, the question through a different lens, and gain some more depth with that. Great choice in challenging us, Bob, with the table topics questions, and great responses with that. Juanita, I love that you put in a specific call to action for a project that you're working on. That takes a lot of skill, and you just turned that question around and pulled in something that we often forget to put into our posts that is really relevant. We talked about being moved by emotion. And one of the things that I like when they talked, this was talking about what grabbed my attention was the golden chalice. That I had missed that before. Matthew, you were very relatable. You're kind and considerate in what you were doing. Fred, you provided a personal story, things that we're learning about each other that we didn't know before. Matthew, you talked about a superpower, Jennifer's superpower. And you referred back to Eric. You took advantage of that and you amplified the feedback that Jennifer got, reinforcing not only the words, but the action. We're demonstrating advanced Toastmaster skills, each one of us. And when we pay attention and focus in, we can see and learn from each other. We're not at the beginning stage. And that's something I've been reflecting on throughout this meeting. We are advanced Toastmasters. This is an advanced Toastmasters club. It's an opportunity for us to shine and perhaps stretch ourselves more out of our comfort zones and get a little bit bigger in what we're doing. And what are we doing to benefit each other in the group that is showing up? One of the things that I've learned from Toastmasters that I'm seeing at my home club now is we're there for each other. And I feel that the group that is here is showing up for each other. And anyone else that comes in and joins us will find the benefit of that. I took away tips from every person that was here tonight that contributed to the meeting. There were things we could have done a bit better that would have made some of the flow a bit easier when we did it as we moved through the meeting. I noticed, Fred, what you did really good is you provided a great introduction for Maren's speech, but I didn't have as much information or have the same setup. I didn't have the same feel coming into Jennifer's speech. So if there's a way as a Toastmaster to balance that out, it will help us. I appreciate that we can have our furry friends with us in the meeting because my Gracie joined us with a lot. The other thing I appreciated was feedback about tech silence and how do we become better at that. Posts with purpose. How do we organize ourselves? Once again, looking at ourselves not as novice Toastmasters, but as advanced Toastmasters. Moving forward with that. Overall, another great meeting. And I think a great thing is in knowing our audience, we often have to think of ourselves sometimes at the audience. Too often, I think we're like putting information out, but sometimes we're the audience. What is going to attract the advanced Toastmasters who are in this room to want to come and attend and be in that meeting? That they're going to have a fear of missing out on what we have to offer when we're together. And I know it's some of the fun that's in the room. It's always the people's that's in the room. And recognizing that each and every one of you has something to offer to take me further on my journey. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for that. And believe it or not, with all the times that we went over, we are actually right on schedule, believe it or not, if I'm looking at the agenda right. So good job still. And I'm going to call on one person, and that's Juanita, because I don't think she's a member just yet. I have an idea how you heard about our meeting, but please tell us, give us some feedback on the meeting, what you thought, and yes, even tell us how you found out about us.
Actually, I have been to the meeting a few times because Maren invited me months ago, and I've returned because you are a very welcoming and very inviting, fun group where I feel like I am encouraged to try new things, and I learn a lot every time I come. So I probably should become a member, but I'm not ready to commit to something else. So I just drop in because you're gracious about letting me do that. But I do find the meetings very helpful, very informational, and very fun. So thank you for letting me drop in.
Thank you, Juanita. Jill, I believe you can drop the hand now as timer. And before I turn things over to our president, Matthew, I've got a plug I'm going to put out there because I am the area director and this club's area director. And one of our jobs as an area director is to charter a club. And I am in the process of working with the trio right now and Emily Myers on chartering a virtual podcasters club. So if anyone's interested or anyone wants to be a sponsor or mentor, once I get all the details worked out from Lori, since I live in a different state, and the other mentor wants to help as well. He lives in Florida. Once we get all the details worked out, we would love to have people join our podcasters clubs. I've already got some cool names in the back of my mind, and I'm going to leave it at that. But if you're interested, let us know. I see Matthew said interesting, and I'll fill you guys in once I hear more from the trio. And I will now turn it over to our presiding officer, Matthew Douglas, to wrap it up.
Thank you very much. Maren messaged me and she had a great idea, which was with some of the time that we have remaining here, if there's anybody that has any pressing PR questions, or if you have something exciting that you're doing at your home club or at another club, we would love to hear it. So I'll open the floor for a minute. Juanita.
I actually would like to ask some suggestions regarding the meeting that we're holding on the 17th. It is targeting the international people that aren't really familiar with English, as I don't even know how to ask the question. Because we have a few people in our group that are speaking English as a second or third language, then that has become a focus. But I'm trying to figure out how there's a tactful way of reaching out and supporting them, and trying to be aware that some of the lingo that we have, some of the nuances that we have in our English language, and how hard the English language is, how we make our meetings effective for them, but also make it so that we can continue on with the group that we started with that meets our needs as well. So I don't know if there's any way of, if that's, it's kind of a complicated question, but if anybody kind of has an idea of where I'm trying to go with that, if you have any feedback. It's kind of a confusing position. It's an exciting position because the things that we're learning from other people, from other cultures and from other countries is fabulous and we love it. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out how to balance that. Does that make sense?
You have to remember that English is like a highway robber. It's run down dark alleys, beat up innocent people and pick other languages and pick their pockets.
I love it, Bob. I love it. We did, one of the things that we recognized at some of our clubs in our major cities in District 42 was a lot of ESL speakers were coming to our clubs. And a lot of them I'm finding now as VP of Education are coming forward because my current VP of Education said she joined Toastmasters so that she could be as eloquent speaking English as she was speaking Chinese. Her vocabulary is outstanding. And how she practices it in our meetings is unique. But we have had other members in our club with the same challenge that didn't have that. But somebody in our district recognized that a lot of these were professionals. And they set up a meeting that is once a month, and we call it CAP for ESL. So Career Advancement Program for English Second Language. And they have a group of people, they bring in specialists and they meet together and they talk about areas that are very specific. I may have one or two people that I could put you in touch with from that group, Juanita, and they
That would be great. Thank you.
provide you some background in it. We had a member of our club who was very shy. And when she started, she couldn't manage. This was what I'd see of her on the screen all the time. And I love, we got her going to that club. It has transformed how she makes a presentation, but she goes to that only once a month and comes to our meetings on a more consistent basis, and became a member of our executive in the last year. It's a great suggestion. You can continue with the same, but then perhaps have a specialty group. If you send me your email or somebody has her email, then or
I'll message it to you.
Okay, I'll drop mine in here for you too.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Matthew, up.
Public speaking is so much about language, right? And this is an opportunity to look at English and how difficult it is. And I laugh because we recently had a taboos meeting, and we do have international members, and we can learn that, like, my thumbs up is so offensive in some places. And so in an international meeting, like, should I be doing that as regularly as I do? That's a good question. Additionally, we have so many idioms or colloquialisms, and maybe providing humor around that. Like, have you ever made a mistake at work related to English language? I certainly have. My non-English as the first language coworkers in the past have really struggled with things like faceplant, nosedive. Those do not work for a huge percentage of people. So maybe some humor, but maybe they have examples in their own language where, like, well, try to learn this, and you're going to struggle because it happens in every language. So that intercultural thing may be an area that intrigues your really strong English speakers and makes them just as excited to help someone who may be struggling a little bit to speak English. And then my last one is just thinking about your themes and how that can tie into the situation. Like, what other cultural contexts can you add? Like, what are some celebrations that maybe everyone's learning together those opportunities are rife. And I really liked Marcy's suggestion of perhaps it's not every week, but you have, like, hey, we really like to concentrate on bringing in people who are struggling a little more on a schedule that the club agrees upon.
I have a club that has a member from Japan who calls in every week, and it's wonderful. He gives us such rich insight in as making us a very open club in terms of the ideas that we express and the conversations that we have. And there are two observations that I wanted to share with you. One is that we're acutely aware of at this time of year is with daylight savings time. It's just to let people know that that's happening, because you don't want them to feel excluded by missing meetings just because we shift clocks and other people don't. And the second one, which I think can be a great reminder to us as speakers, is sometimes it's really important to slow down and also to repeat yourself. And that can be useful just as a speaker, whether you're talking to an all English speaking audience or whether English is a second language. But that power of repeating and then maybe reframing it or repeating it again can be really powerful for us as native speakers, but can also be incredibly powerful for somebody who is English as a second language to make sure that they're getting the concepts. So those are my two.
Okay, Jennifer's got her hand up too.
I was going to change topics. So,
Go ahead, that's fine.
all right. This Saturday, I will be Toastmaster at 8 in the morning. It'll be fun, fun, fun. It'll be totally awesome 80s songs. It's a theme. And it's one of these musical meetings that I do throughout the year. And it'll be a great time. So I want all of you to attend because it'd be great to see you. And what a better way to start a Saturday morning than to have fun and rock out to the 80s. So that's my plug.
Jennifer, are you only on Zoom or are you in person hybrid as well?
On Zoom only at this point. We're not hybrid, but
Okay.
yeah. I know you wanted to try out the dance moves, right, in public.
Oh, you betcha.
Does anybody else have a burning question that they'd like to ask, or
I
something they want
do
to share?
actually, if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
Eric.
This is a VPPR question. So I am VP of membership this year at our club, and we have had a big gaping vacancy at VPPR all year, and it is not getting filled. So my observations are people do not feel comfortable with public relations and marketing and advertising, and they think that it's either horrible or they don't know how to do it at best. How do you encourage a member who may be uncomfortable in that role to actually step up and take the role? Or how do we encourage at least some PR to happen even without a VPPR?
I always invite them to PR Masters.
I'd like to
That
try
was
to answer that too.
that was a softball, Matthew. That was too easy. Okay.
How about this, Eric? Ask them if they have a cell phone. What's the chances are they're going to say yes? And they say, then you can say, there's your camera right there. You know, if everybody takes pictures with their camera, with their phone, excuse me. And to me, that would just be a better approach. It's kind of informal, you know, without really putting pressure on them, in my opinion. But everybody's got a cell phone. And more people take photos with their phone and videos than they do talking or texting.
I don't know, Eric. I would lean into Eric of a couple of years ago. And I remember he was pretty uncomfortable with the VPPR role. and I wasn't quite certain about this posting stuff, and figure out what might be fun for this person and why might they post? What's in it for them? What's in it for the club? I think there's real benefits to particularly posting in LinkedIn for your professional life, showing yourself publicly. I think there's room there for professional development that shows you as a leader. And when we start messaging out, when we start exposing ourselves, a little bit of vulnerability, it actually builds our credibility as leaders. So maybe framing it that way might help. And then additionally, it goes back to that question of, if we've found so much benefit from Toastmasters, like learning how to message out and how we're comfortable doing that, I think is key. And it's that stretching, you know, like, okay, maybe you're comfortable posting on LinkedIn. Okay, that's a stretch. Maybe you're now going to add the link to the club, or you're going to add the hashtag. Maybe you aren't able to do all of it at once, but just doing a post is good enough. And I actually had this conversation at like 4 o'clock this afternoon about good enough. You know, good enough is a step, and it's a growth step, and getting it out there. So like my speech today, it was good enough. I'm exceedingly busy, and I am so happy to have this forum to practice and then build toward this TLI session that Marcy and I are working on, as well as Jill. So how can we make those tiny growth comfort zone steps, but then bring it back to that story of, I felt that discomfort. I still feel that discomfort sometimes. I know that I'm exposing my name out into the world on Facebook and out into the world on LinkedIn, and it is uncomfortable, but we can do it.
I want to follow up on that with one of my favorite quotes from Sharon Shore. You cannot be a secret and a success at the same time. Therefore, your club cannot be a secret and a success at the same time. You as an individual cannot be a secret and a success at the same time. One of the things that I like to see what's happening, we had someone jump up in our club, all excited to be our VPPR this year. However, they haven't made one post yet. They have put together finally a good newsletter, but I found myself and our past VPPR, who is also an immediate relative, was president a while ago, are filling in. This new VPPR realized she didn't have the time. She asked for people, anybody that was interested. She actually did a call out in an email. We now have a team of 5 people that are working on PR in our club, shifting the responsibilities around with them. Now, I'm very surprised. Her leadership style, her taking on the role, is very different than mine. Her life changed from when she volunteered to when the role got engaged. She started into an MBA program, and I recognize the changes in her life. But one of the things that I believe makes a difference is take someone by the hand. Instead of just putting the weight on them, walk with them. And that's what we're doing, is we're walking with these new people. Some of them are new club members. We're showing them how to do it, and just walking along. We provide opportunities too within our district, just like PR Masters. But we have within our district, we have a content creators team that they can come to those meetings once a month. And we also have a PR mastermind once a month where people can come and share their challenges. Therefore, if you provide other opportunities instead of just the job, breaking it down into smaller pieces, or providing that helping hand that's going to go beside them as a mentor, I believe will make a difference. And I just discovered recently, like I did a presentation in a different region to their PRMs, and I was astounded to find out that at least two of the districts in that region went 1 or 2 years without anybody in the PRM role. Therefore, it's not just at the VPPR role that we're having challenges. What I'm learning from some of the volunteering that I'm doing now is that there's gaps in leadership across the board globally. There's a challenge. So how can we make it exciting then for people to want to be leaders and have fun with us? Because it is fun. Or at least that's my experience.
Got Bob and Jennifer.
Jennifer, you're up there ahead of me. Go ahead.
All right. All I was going to say was over 2 years ago, I did not want to do anything with Facebook at New Horizons Toastmasters because of what Maren mentioned. It's the fear of going very public with your abilities when you're new. What I would recommend, Eric, is that you direct them to the Canvas seminar that Maren and I and Andrea did, and get them interested in trying it out. Maybe not posting right away, but doing like a sample, kind of playing with it, because now I can spend hours on Canva, I admit it, way into the night, and I've done a lot with it over that time, including animations and everything else, which couldn't even imagine over 2 years ago. So you start somewhere, you try it out, and if you don't like what you make, you start over or you do the back key. The back key is the friend. So highly recommend Canva.
Okay, I guess it's my turn, huh? I guess there are two sides to this coin. There's the technical side, and we hear a lot about that, and that can be really intimidating to somebody who's never done this before. You're talking a foreign language to people who, especially who are technically challenged. And then there's the other side of the coin, which is what Maren talked about this, and this is the focus of her speech. What is the purpose? What's the purpose of a post? Focus on the purpose of what you're doing. Why are you doing this? To spread the word, right? That's one of the purposes, spread the word. That's easy to internalize for somebody. Because you can spread the word a number of different ways. You can do it word of mouth, you can do it with an email, you can do it with a phone call, you can do it by having somebody else do it for you. There's all different ways of accomplishing that, spread the word. Another side of it is it's embedded in the word public relations. It's the word relations. What are you doing? You're creating relationships with people. You're building relationships. And this is something that most people know how to do after some fashion. They can get their heads wrapped around that. I'm going to build a relationship with somebody in the community, or and I'm going to create friends of Toastmasters. And Marcia, you came up with a word here, FOMO, fear of missing out, right? That you can build that into a message. You gave me a great idea here tonight, fear of missing out. The table topics today, the answers to the table topics really triggered my imagination. And a club once a month or once a quarter could have a theme where they asked questions of the members, and you could call it pick your brain. And you take that brain dump and you turn that around and create a message and send that out and share the knowledge that this club has with a wider audience. And then you you embed the message, the fear of missing out message, underlying that, an undertone to that, to kind of get them in there. Jill, you talked about the sad puppy dog there. You know, there's an emotional component to fear of missing out. I want to share in this too, and so there's a hook or a connection you can build into it. So you can build that sort of that resonance into the VPPR role. So you've given me some great ideas here to help me in my role as a VPPR of this club to do my job better. So I appreciate it. Back to you, Fred.
Before Fred takes over, I gotta say, Bentley and I thank you all very, very much for your input tonight. I
Eric,
took lots
before you leave,
of
how about a
notes.
group, how about a group photo, Maren? You want to take that group photo?